Hong Kong in mourning after 39 people died in Lamma Island vessel crash. Demonstrations held in Fremantle demanding the federal government to ban live animal export. Thank you for your company.
Making news in Perth, John Hyde interviewed about his election campaign, and Quidditch mania on the Northbridge Piazza after the Phoenixes defeated the Mandrakes for the second time in a row.
This is the Evening News.
Good evening. Although a week has passed, it's still painful for many Hong Kong people to remember the Lamma Island boat tragedy, which killed 39 and injured 66 people during the China's National Day fireworks. A public memorial ceremony was held in the city, remembering those victims. Our journalist Queenie Lee has a summary of the event.
Hong Kong entered 3 days of mourning since last Thursday. Flag flew at half-mast around the government buildings for the 39 victims killed in the Lamma Island boat tragedy. Hong Kong Chief Executive Ivan Leung and other principal officials observed 3 minutes of silence outside the government headquarters in Admiralty at noon. The government has set up condolence points in all 18 districts, allowing local residents to express their grief. Apart from book signings, some citizens laid flowers to remember those victims of the ferry disaster. DHK News understands that most victims are the employees of Hong Kong Electric Group. The company has arranged another 2 vessels, assist victims' families, offering sacrifices to their loved ones. Meanwhile, the 2 vessels which involved in the tragedy are still kept for further investigation. Some victims who were injured are still remaining in critical conditions. Queenie Lee, DHK News.
In other news, the High Court has rejected the Pan Democrats' request to review the chief executive election results in Hong Kong. Both Albert Ho from the Democratic Party and Leung Kuk Hong from the League of Social Democrats accused Chief Executive C.Y. Leung for lying about his home's alleged illegal structures during the election campaign. Hong Kong correspondent Laurent Chan and Gordon Choi reports.
Legislative Councillor and former Chief Executive candidate Albert Ho has launched an appeal on the CE election results, challenging C.Y. Leung's victory after he allegedly lied about illegal structures in his home. The High Court has ruled not to extend the deadline for Ho to file a petition against the result, which is set 7 days after the election. Mr. Ho has within this week to appeal ruling. Lauren Chen and Gordon Choi, DHK News, Hong Kong.
And back to Perth now. Animal rights activists have held a protest in Fremantle demanding the federal government to ban live export trade after the ABC has exposed animals are put to death with horrific torture methods.
The protest was part of a nationwide demonstration, with some activists in Sydney describing the live animal export as the animal holocaust. The protesters also vowed not to vote for those political candidates who support the trade. Alexandra Mollo has been following the story.
Hundreds of people gathered across Australia calling for a ban on live sheep export. The protest was organised after the release of a video that shows Australian sheep being tortured and slaughtered. But the video is not the only evidence. Several documents reported that more than 20,000 sheep were killed in horrendous ways, including stabbing to death and burying them alive. In Western Australia, federal member for Fremantle Melissa Park says better alternatives should be considered to refrain Australian animals from suffering.
What we're calling for is a phasing out of the live export trade and a transition to an expanded domestic processing and chilled and frozen meat export capacity.
Meanwhile, Fremantle Mayor Brad Pettit believes the issue should be phased in a way that doesn't affect employment rates nor animal welfare.
But there needs to be a strong government position where we're phasing out live exports towards the chilled meat industry within Western Australia. It'd be great for employment and it'd be really, most importantly, really good for animal welfare.
Rallies were held in Fremantle, Sydney, Melbourne and Canberra, with protesters from all ages who urged authorities to stop this practice.
It's just wrong to kill animals or kill them in inhumane ways, like stabbing them to death or burying them alive.
But Pakistani authorities denied the accusations by claiming that no sheep were mistreated and all procedures were based on Islamic practices. Alexandra Mollo, DHK News.
To other issues, if the word Hyde Perth sounds or looks familiar to you, it's a revelation that the state election is edging closer. State member for Perth CBD John Hyde is now campaigning to secure his seat in Parliament against the Liberal Party. I caught up with the man himself earlier this week. John Hyde, welcome to Evening News.
Good evening, Ivan.
Why should Perth vote for you as a MP?
Oh, I think people in Perth want somebody who's going to be independent and stand up for what their priorities as residents are, first of all. Whether you're in government or out of government, they want somebody local who's able to put the views and the needs of residents first.
You might realise your rival's quite strong, as she's one of the city councillors in Perth. Do you believe you can win?
Look, I think it's really important. Doesn't matter how many candidates are standing against you, that you have to have been working for 4 years, and the people in this electorate are well informed, they've got strong opinions, and they'll make their mind up.
What is the most challenging thing you've ever come across when you were doing this job?
I think the law and order issues have been very, very important. If we look back to the late 90s, what was really happening in Northbridge then, and if we actually compare to today, the real picture about how safe the area has become in comparison, and a number of people that are moving into the area. So previously we had parts of Northbridge and parts of the inner city that were very much just entertainment zones or no-go areas. Now people want to live here, but they also want a safe environment. They also want a place that they're proud of.
Elizabeth Key is coming up very soon, the project, if the Barnett government wins the election. What's your view on that?
Now, the one contract that the Barnett government have got signed with Elizabeth Key will be to give off part of the heritage listed esplanade for Chevron to build an office tower. There won't be any beautiful quay with little swans or jet skis or a public open space. It's about looking after business developers rather than looking after the needs of real residents.
Finally, let's talk a little bit about the campaign. How long have you been preparing it for now?
Well, I actually believe in continuous campaigning. I think people in the CBD electorate, they know if somebody just turns up 6 months before an election, and they'll be polite and nod. And I think that also goes with a lot of the communities, be it the Chinese community, a lot of the ethnic communities. I look at over the 4 years, and I've been going to so many of the Chunghwa and other Chinese community events, and next year we'll have Chinese New Year during the election campaign, so there'll be politicians there from everywhere, but I think the Chinese community knows who's been supporting them for 4 years.
John Hyde, thanks for your time.
Thanks, Ivan.
And the funnel to that story, next week I'll be interviewing John's main rival, Eleni Evangel, representing the Liberal Party, contesting the seat of Perth. Anna?
Thanks, Ivan. The train delay crisis in Perth last week has frustrated many commuters after an electrical fault caused havoc on the southbound Joondalup train line. As state political editor Christian Dwyer reports, the Transport Minister was defending the efficiency of the Public Transport Authority after the opposition has called for an independent inquiry about this incident.
It's been a rough week for the state government and a couple of sleepless nights for Transport Minister Troy Buswell as the train network was brought to a grinding halt after a train wire ripped and cracked a window as the train careered on a further kilometre. And while the opposition are highlighting previous near misses in 2008 and 2010, Buswell was adamant that this was a completely different issue and implored patience to the local public whilst the repairs were taking place.
Is that in these two cases, the pantographs became disengaged from the electrical, effectively the power line, resulting in a loss of power to the train. Yesterday's event, from my observations, is completely different. Yesterday's event involved a significant entanglement of the pantograph with the wire, which led effectively to the wire and those cantilevers being ripped down over a 1.5 kilometre stretch.
In other political news, both state political parties have been at loggerheads over issues involving police presence and spending in Western Australia. In the wake of claims that the government had plans to cut spending on West Australian police, Police Minister Lisa Harvey has denied the accusations and reassured the public that services would not be cut.
Levels of services that people are currently experiencing from police, they can expect to be maintained. The Commissioner and I have both agreed that This freeze on the FTE ceiling will not affect frontline services. This means there will be no fewer cops on the beat. They will not be taken from frontline servicing, from answering calls for assistance from the community and put into other roles.
However, the opposition is not convinced, taking aim at the $31 million worth of cuts to policing since May this year and a failed election promise that involved 500 new policemen and 200 staffers.
The police have been told to find another $10 million cut out of their budget on top of the $21 million that was cut in the May budget. Those cuts will affect the front line. The Minister and the government are trying to suggest that they won't, but the fact of the matter is that when 104 positions are taken from the police service, those jobs have to be done by someone. They're not replacing any vacancies that occur, and that means that where people retire or where positions are currently vacant, they're not being filled.
And Christian Dwyer joins us from Guildford train station with another crisis on the Trans-Perth train line.
Yes, Anna, there has been a tragic death yesterday at Guildford station where a young man allegedly fell onto the tracks in front of a peak hour train to Midland. Now, there was a heavy police presence as it became aware to the public that an accident did occur, and they were quick to barricade the area from passerbys with police vans. The train in question was also seen parked not far away from Guildford station. Despite the fact that they have not been able to positively identify the body, eyewitnesses are claiming the John Doe in question was of middle age and fell onto the tracks accidentally. The aftermath of this was for Trans-Perth to declare that an incident had occurred and that all trains would terminate at Bassendean station, leaving heavy queues for rail replacement services. Ivan?
The Fremantle City Council is planning a major overhaul on its parkings and signings in the town centre after reports detailing into the area's traffic and parking concerns was released. The report recommended extensions of the first hour free parking in some areas, unlimited night parkings and many more. Our journalist Timothy Xiao spoke to the Fremantle Mayor Brad Pettit.
Visitors to Fremantle will be given an early Christmas present with the city offering free parking. The city is looking at ways to improve parking arrangements to make it easier for both residents and visitors to Fremantle.
The issue that I got the most complaints about from residents and businesses in Fremantle was parking. So we had a new approach. We've gone out and consulted with them and improved parking arrangements so that there's more free on-street parking, but also we have now 1 hour free parking in our major car parks.
Fremantle Mayor Dr. Brad Pettit also shares with us about the other developments that's being done in the city.
One of the things we're doing as well, certainly we'll be promoting that through a range of media and those kinds of things, but also the other key thing we're doing is around legibility. So as you come into Fremantle, there will be very large signs telling you about lifetime parking bay availability, as well as actually promoting things such as the first hour free and those kinds of things.
Some other initiatives that the city will be looking to discuss at today's committee meeting will include introducing unlimited night parking, extensions to free parking, and the development of a smartphone application to provide visitors with real-time parking information. The city is hoping that this revamp will actually attract more visitors to Fremantle from Mondays to Fridays. Timothy Xiao, DHK News.
A minor protest has been held in Hamiliton Hill by local residents in an attempt to protect a 200-year-old great chewit tree from being vandalised. DHK News understands the campaign has been ongoing for 3 months, with some activists living on and below the tree. The WA Police was accused by demonstrators of assisting the developer to vandalise the tree, but the police have denied such accusations.
And finally tonight, the Quidditch mania spread to the Northbridge Piazza on Sunday on the Harry Potter's Family Day. For the second time, the WA Phoenix defeated the Mandrakes with a closer 150 to 130 points after the Phoenix got the Gold Snitcher 2 times in a row. The Phoenix captain was really excited about the event.
There's quills, magic wands, all the little kids can, it's sort of like reenacting their first day of Hogwarts.
Apart from the Quidditch match, the Harry Potter's movies were also shown on the big screen, along with other stores on the piazza, including candy bar and face painting for kids. If you've been good. And the magic continues. That's how the world looks tonight.
Remember to join us on our Facebook page for all the latest local and international news. Good evening.
Good night.